Hey guys,
It's June and Ayana.
and we are super excited to be here with you on tonight,
Yes, we are.
talking about something very important.
Yes, yes. Mental health.
We're going to talk about our mental health on tonight and how important it is. Um, I don't think that this subject is talked about enough. And I think that there's a stigma around it as to why people don't talk about it. But it's important and it affects all of us essentially.
Yes.
May not affect you directly, but it could be your children, your spouse,
Hmm.
your mom, your dad, your siblings, your cousins,
Co-workers.
co-workers, friends,
Yeah.
somebody you know is
Yeah.
affected by mental health issues. And so we think it's really important and relevant at this time to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get um, a few more viewers in.
Okay.
So we'll take about a few more seconds to get started, and we're going to introduce our special guest on today. So we're going to bring in the experts.
Okay. Yep. Sounds good.
Super excited about it.
Yes, mental health is something like nobody wants to talk about. It's like another popular subject.
No, it's not, but it needs to be. And I
Yeah.
think that's why we really were passionate
Hmm.
about doing this show. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we wanted to really make sure that we're sharing the information, making the people aware of, what's happening and, opening it up so people aren't ashamed to talk about it.
Right. Right.
Um, we're going to bring up our first guest on tonight. She's not a newbie to our show, but we're going to bring up Joyce Magby. Hi, Joyce.
Joyce.
Hey.
So, Joyce is a licensed clinical social worker and a certified dementia practitioner. She currently works as a geriatric social worker for an acute psychiatric hospital and as a therapist part time, providing services to clients in the United States and globally. She received her bachelor's of social work from North Carolina A&T and her Master of Social Work from the University of New England. When she's not working, she and her husband and her family. Welcome, Joyce.
Joyce.
Hi.
We are always glad to have you on, and we can't wait to hear your expertise on tonight. Our next special guest is Brittany Jennings. Brittany is a graduate of North Carolina Central University. She has a Master's of Arts in Mental Health Counseling. She's a licensed clinical addiction specialist. She's a clinician at Daymark Recovery Services for 3 years. She's a mobile crisis clinician. She's married with 2 children. And we are super excited to have you here with us on tonight as well. Welcome,
Welcome.
Brittany.
Welcome.
So Brittany, I have known for a long time. Brittany, actually, I did not meet her in this field. I actually met Brittany in her previous line of work as a teacher at the high school, one of the local high schools here, and fell in love with Brittany there. And I think that that prompts us to our first question on tonight, and we'll start with you, Brittany, since I have said that.
Yes. So first, we want to know where did the desire to into the mental health field come from?
Um, it was I when I was in high school, I had a job working at a facility called Serenity Counseling Center in Oxford. It was upstairs, second floor of the post office, and one of my friends just happened to tell me, hey, we're hiring, we're looking for a dictator. So I was typing the notes and listening to, things that were to type the notes and filing notes and just like, oh my gosh, these type of things exist because mental health wasn't really talked about. Um, Around me at all. I didn't know anything about it. So if it really wasn't for that job I had, I would have been oblivious to it. Um, and then that's kind of where I fell in love. And I was like, I like this. I want to help people because I thought I wanted to be a nurse, typical. I want to help people, so I want to be a nurse, right? And I was like, that can't be the way because I had tried nursing school before. And I was almost like at the bridge course, and we had to go to the hospital to see one. I don't know what it was, but all I saw was blood, and I was like, "Mom, this is not it. Like, this is not it." And I'm telling you, I changed my major so fast, and I was like, "Well, I knew I want to help people," so I went to the counseling center on Central Campus, and I did one of those screenings and different tests and you know all of those things. And I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And so I did all those testings, and it was really cool. And they gave me a lot of insight and idea. And I was like, counseling, family counseling. Oh, that sounds cool. I like that. And I just started to research which path to take. I did a whole major change, like 10th sophomore year. It was crazy. I got fussed out by so many people. Like, but I was like, I know I'm sorry. I'm gonna get it right. This is what I want to do now. And that's how I got into it.
Wow.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Joyce, tell us how you got into it.
Yeah. So mine initially started when I started undergrad. I went into school as an undecided major because I was tossed between education and social work. And it wasn't until my social work foundation course where I realized how much you can do as a social worker. The field is so broad. I have a love for children, and I thought initially I wanted to be a school social worker. But after exploring different placements and shadowing my professors, I decided to take more of the clinical route, which really allows me to do school social work plus everything else in between. Um, so that's how I started. I always had a love to help people, and I've always been drawn like to the adolescent population. But again, with social work, I realized that I can work far in between, and thus far I have done that. I work with kids, and right now in the geriatric population, so I've worked with everything in between that population.
Wonderful,
Very good.
wonderful. So, well, many people may not know, but this this whole thing has just piqued my interest so much. I think we do the grief support group, and so from the grief support group, it has just opened up my heart to like counseling and therapy and wanting to do it because I love grief counseling. Just I love what we do with our grief sessions. And so I enrolled actually probably about 3 weeks ago into Wake Forest to get my master's in counseling as well. So I'm super excited and super excited to learn from you all as well. So hopefully coming soon after these 3 years, because I am doing it part time, 3 years. We'll see what the Lord has for us. Um, but it really has really, and not only just from grief support, but our own story within itself. I can remember the night of the fire, one of my coworkers saying to me, Ayana, you need to go and get some medicine. And I was like, I'm not taking any medicine. I feel like it's going to make me out of my mind. I'm not getting any medicine. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to a hospital and I'm not getting any medicine. The Lord is going to help me. And so sometimes I feel like people take that approach and they don't get the help that they need because they're so super spiritual that they don't get the help that they need. Like, and I have to say, like, the Lord literally, He helped us, He kept us, He did that. Um, and I remember we did um, seek counseling. We took, and actually, I don't even know that people know where to start as far as like getting therapy and things like that because we did. And someone directed us to a hospital. And so we go to this hospital. We're upstairs with all these people in the lobby. And I was like, oh my God, where are we? And so the counselors come and it's all of us, me, June, Devontae, and Makai, and they interview us and they're like, you just had a traumatic event to happen. You all are okay. So I felt like we were in the wrong place. I think that was more extreme cases. But I guess needed someone to talk to, and so we ended up going to it was I can't even remember the name of it. It's Duke Bereavement. We ended up going to Duke Bereavement, and they had some counselors there who were able to talk to the kids and talk to us. And you remember that? They were crying. It was something. But they were really good. And I heard some things when they brought the family together to kind of hear. Um, different parts, like some things that Devontae, had a hard time with that I didn't even know. And so it was really good. The only thing that I hate that we didn't do at that time, because we only went for a few weeks, but I wish we had probably, done it a little longer, especially for the kids. I think Makai was so young, but Devontae was older. So I wish we had probably pushed him a little bit longer in that place. Um, but from that, how do you know where to go? How do you know like what counselor is right for you, or how do people seek out therapy, or how do they even know that they possibly need therapy?
Um, I can go. I can start off. Well, for one, it's not talked about. I honestly feel like we should have more billboards up, more flyers scattered about, like just signs that are posted, that are out there, just so people can know. And I feel like it should be out there just as much as everything else is, even as far as social media, but it's really not. If you're not already in tune or connected with someone that may be affiliated with mental health, then it wouldn't pop up on your timeline. But I can speak for as far as if you're in the area, Daymark Recovery Services. And a lot of people hear that name and they think of recovery, like, substance use or addiction or drugs, but we do everything. There are all types of mental health, grief, adolescence, you name it. All types of licensed clinicians that are there. But so for someone that's in the area that may be on the live and is just kind of straddling the fence of like, look, I need to talk to somebody. I might need some medication. The first step that I've noticed a lot of clients go to is they talk to their primary doctor. And it's usually that form that they have on there, and they'll ask you all these questions about, are you sleeping? Are you eating? Any suicidal thoughts, depressed, a lot of depression. And or it could just be a matter of having a conversation with your primary doctor and saying, hey, look, this is what I'm going through. I don't know if I went out or not. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, sorry, going on mine. Okay. So having a conversation with your primary doctor if you're in doubt of really where to go and not in the area of Vance County or Graham County or surrounding counties, you can go to your primary doctor and just let them know, hey, can you give me a referral to a therapist? I really need to talk to someone. Or can you refer me to a psychiatrist? I need to talk to someone. Depending on your insurance, you can call the back of your insurance card to see where you can go and what's in your network. You can also contact Cardinal Innovations, which is our catchment area for a lot of Medicaid, Medicare, all of those things. And they can direct you to who, where, what, and how, the process, and the contact number. So those are the main two things that I would kind of say. But once you come into, if you decide to come to Daymark, of course you come in and they do an assessment on you. And, from the assessment, which is a series of questions and, a lot of back and forth, so the clinicians can better understand what you're going through. So they can refer you to the right clinician, the right group, the right doctor, the right facility, or what have you. So that could be the best.
Wonderful. Joyce?
Brittany kind of laid the foundation of the basics. The key piece, she said, if you're not really connected with someone that's in the mental health field, you really don't know, and you could end up at the ER. And a lot of times they take you through that whole step process. And I know some people that arrive to the ER because of anxiety, depression, or whatever they're feeling, and they can go through an assessment that way. But like Brittany said, reaching out to your insurance, and I see it just popped up on the screen. That's a good one. Some employers offer EAP services. So EAP services is called the Employees Assistance Program, and that is, some people have that through their actual job. And so if you're wondering if your job covers that for you, you can reach out to your HR and ask them, or you can just contact your insurance provider that's on your actual card and ask them, do my is my insurance coverage with employees assistance? And with the employees assistance, they offer a limited amount of free counseling sessions. Also, they can refer you to long-term counseling support as well. So that's a good resource to use. But like Brittany said, especially for the Henderson Vance Franklin, it's so rural. We don't have many services outside of Dade Mark and Henderson. We have a few private practices. I know in Warrenton you have Freedom House or Lake Area Healthcare, which is kind of does the same thing as Dade Mark, but that's the basis of really getting started. And then also, if you're missing your primary care provider, that's a good start.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Very good. That's some good information right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What has been the greatest challenge that you faced doing this type of work?
Ooh.
I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry, it had went out for me.
What has been the greatest challenge that you have faced doing this line of work?
Okay, gotcha.
So I think you want me, so I think for me
No,
is
you go.
in a sense the attachment piece. I had to learn early on how to detach. I know the line of work that I do, and we carry a lot of other people burdens and problems, but I couldn't figure out how to separate it. So I would literally bring it home with me. I would constantly be thinking about how can I continue to support my client? How can I continue to provide resources for my client on the clock, off the clock, in between? So that was, I would say, my greatest challenge was trying to figure out really how to separate and to trust myself that I'm doing the best for my client without taking their problems literally with me everywhere I go.
Yeah, that's good. I definitely have to agree with you, Joyce, on that. Being able to separate and turn it off. I would say the first few months was really bad. It was bad. I would come home and I would cry and I would just be like, oh my gosh, I just didn't know that things was this bad for people. And just, I was a wreck. And I was like, God, I can't do this because I can't come home upset or angry or just, I can't do this. So I started walking, I started exercising, I started doing things, taking care of myself as I was helping other people. Because it was a lot at first. And now it has gotten to the point where I'm able to leave it there at work. And even as a mobile crisis clinician, on several nights out the week, I'm on call and it's just random calls. And, it's kind of like, it's tough sometimes because it's like it doesn't shut off on the days that I have to be on call. I just always have to be in that mode. But another way I would say, another challenge would be turning my mind off from counselor mode and being a wife, turning it off and being a friend, turning it off and just having general conversation without my mind going into full assessment mode and all of that. And so those two would be my greatest challenges.
Gotcha. Interesting. I was in my class the other day. One of my professors was saying that that's like a hard thing for her as a counselor to just separate because you care about people, you form relationships with them, they're telling you their whole life story and you empathize with them, and so it's hard to kind of detach. And when it's time to, if counseling is ending or whatever, and just learning how to separate, taking other people's burdens you know with you. So that's really interesting. um Mental health is so important, and again, we don't talk about it, especially I feel like in the Black community. Like, we just don't talk about it. I think we're talking about it more now than I've ever heard. In our church, we make announcements about it. But why do you think that that is the way it is? Why don't we talk about
I definitely think it's that stigma or that fear of being judged. right? I think a lot of people associate receiving mental health services with a diagnosis, or like you said, like that medication piece. And so some people may fear that, like that judgment piece, and then also wondering, like, you know, if I go see a therapist, they're gonna give me a diagnosis. Is this gonna stick with me forever? Is it gonna show up when I go apply for a job, or if they request certain paperwork, if it's gonna show up? So I really think it's just that stigma, and then too, the lack of education on what it entails, what mental health looks like, the aspects of it, because it definitely varies.
I agree, Joyce. And I also, if I could add another thing, I think it could be the trust, lack of trust. The thought of, last person I tried to tell this to, they didn't believe me, or they felt this way, or they judged me, or I heard about it again. So I don't really want to tell anybody else this because I'm trying to forget it myself. Or the fact of feeling different, being labeled like you said, and just feeling comfortable, feeling comfortable to kind of get out of that what happens in this house stays in this house mentality. And then I feel like it takes one step. It takes that one step to go talk to someone. And I'm really big on group therapy. And especially when you have that support and you realize, oh man, I'm not alone. Like all this time I thought it was just me and this is normal. And that's when the education piece comes in. It's not talked about enough. I think, like you said, Miss Lewis, that it wasn't until it broke the news, or until someone, a celebrity, brought it out. And I think right now what they have Harry and Oprah talking about it. So I mean, I'm glad it's getting out there, but I would like for it to get out there a little bit more with local people, more so than just people that we'll never really see or touch. Yeah, I feel like it would hit home a lot different. So yeah.
I think that's good, and I think that's important. I really think that it is important. Um, oh, dear.
So I'm gonna
Mhm.
say
Can't hear.
Oh, well.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I was saying that I have just developed a newly found respect for the profession that you ladies are doing. And just by listening to you guys, y'all are doing a phenomenal job. And I can hear that both of you love to help people and things of that sort. And that is so amazing to me. So what are some signs um to connect, or some signs to that leads to mental health before the diagnosis? What are some signs?
Yeah, to say like that you need help, or maybe you should talk to someone.
Okay. I would say it really varies. Um, sometimes I would say it kind of depends. It could be depression and, something, I'm not going to call it simple, but something like postpartum depression. That's a real thing. And a lot of people just, they just say, oh, you'll be fine. Your hormones just got to get back intact and all of that. But, sometimes that depression lingers on and you might start to question yourself. If I've always said, if you have to question, do I need to talk to somebody? Regardless of the situation. And I think that's grounds enough room to say, okay, let me go talk to somebody, because it may or may not be a diagnosis. It could be just a crisis for that moment, that what you're dealing with. It may not be anything long term. So I would definitely say, if you have to question or ask yourself, should I talk to somebody? It won't hurt you to just go talk to somebody and really get a better understanding. And the more you talk, the more you might say, I really like this. Let's keep this up. I feel better. But you have so many different signs. Um, Lack of sleep. Sometimes, of course, some people deal with insomnia, but that's a lot of times it could also be attached to something. You know, just reoccurring events, flashbacks. That could be something related to PTSD. And I'm just going broadly. I'm not really digging in deep. Depression, just sadness, suicidal thoughts, definitely. Um, just anything that you feel like is just not your normal base, or if it is your normal and you feel like this isn't right, I would recommend to go talk to somebody, seek professional help, non-judgmental help, and give it a try. It can't hurt.
I agree. Joyce?
She hitting it. But yeah, outside of it, I will say too, like she mentioned, like those physical symptoms, some people kind of push those off as well. But if you realize like your mind is constantly churning, you're not able to stop thinking about certain things. It's like you're always in go mode. Those physical symptoms, she mentioned like a sleep, headaches. Again, you always go to your primary care doctor first and let's rule out any physical things. And if it continues, that could be a sign, that you may need to see a professional to explore kind of some things that's going on in your life. But like Brittany said, the key is when you have that thought, should I? It's a good chance that you should.
Yep, I agree. I agree. Um, and sometimes people think that it has to be something major that's happening in your life, or you had to have this traumatic event, for you to seek counseling. But I think that it's really important to know if you feel overwhelmed in any way, if you feel stressed, um, seek counseling, talk to somebody. I often say, if you keep everything bottled up inside, it's going to come out some way. And normally, if you don't take the healthy route of talking to someone, um, something will shake it and make it explode, and it's going to come out in a negative way. And so I think it's very important to seek help.
Yeah.
Um, I think it is. I think it is.
And so we understand that this field can be very stressful. How do you balance it and manage not to bring it home?
Ooh. So for me personally, and again, like I mentioned, social work is so broad, and so you're able to kind of find your niche and what works for you. So what I realized was that um, community work wasn't for me. So the facility that I work in, it's a state hospital, and I know when I leave there, my patients are safe. Right? They have 24-hour awake staff. It's a lot facility, so I don't have to worry about them, getting out. And that helps my mental a lot when it comes to it. And even part time with the therapy that I do a lot of short term therapy. And a lot of the things that we discuss are things that can be resolved within maybe three to 8 sessions. And so for the most part, they are not very acute. And so that helps me as well. And so for me, it was finding my niche and what field was best for me.
It's good.
And I think I had missed the beginning of the question, but I'm assuming Mr. Junior has stated, asked, how do we not take it home? I think
Yes,
you said.
the stressfulness of it.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So um I had to do some self-care. I had to figure out what it is that I enjoyed. I had to figure out what it is that could kind of take my mind off of things, because it does get stressful, even if it's not the stress from the actual, what you're taking on, the workload, the paperwork behind it, the referral process, that still is overwhelming to me at times. So I would say I had to stop bringing work home, and that was just my notes and everything else. I had to kind of stop bringing it home because I would continue to think about it, and I would become more stressed out over how much stuff I have to do opposed to the situation with the client. And that's where I had to kind of cut the line and say, okay, if it's not done by 5, okay, it's 4:30. I got to get in crunch mode to get this done because I cannot take this home. Um, the paperwork, the actual documentation. But as far as, thinking about the clients, Joyce said the community work wasn't for her. I actually enjoy community work because I feel like I'm more hands-on and able to see different things and different people, and I really enjoy that. So it is very hard, because we want what's best for every client, but understanding that we can't force a client to do something. We could want what's best for them, but they have to find their own path. And once I realize that is, I have once we meet and we work through whatever it is we have to work through, my hands are off of it. It is now it's in your court, and I had to understand that and say, okay, I can't get stressed out every time this person goes through something, because this is their life, this is their session. Of course, we want what's best, but all we can do is just help walk with you, not for you, throughout the process. And that is how I had to. Once I processed that mentally, I was better able to leave it at home, leave it at work, and not take it home.
It's
That's
good.
good.
I have a question concerning young people. So, Joyce, I heard you say that you work with young people as well. Um, I had an instance where my baby boy was, I guess, in a stressful environment for him. And every day he would go and he would throw up every day. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Because he has a funny diet. So I was like, well, let me find out, what's going on. So I take him to the doctor, and the doctor said, Ayana, it's anxiety. I said,
Mhm.
what? He is
Mhm.
6 years old. What do you mean? And he started asking me questions.
Man.
Yeah, he was 5 at the time. And so he started asking me questions as to when does it happen, and it was happening
Mhm.
every morning. And so I ended up removing him from that environment, and he stopped.
Mhm.
So I was like, what? You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm. Mhm.
and so I'm giving that example as one to say, like, I didn't even know how to handle that situation because I couldn't understand how he had
Mhm.
anxiety at 5.
Mhm.
To us about that.
Oh yeah. So that's very real. And even for a personal example, my little sister, she was in a stressful environment. And I mean, wake up in the morning crying while doing homework. And then this is all abnormal stuff that she wouldn't normally do. Wake up in the morning crying about homework, stomach is always hurting, diarrhea. And I'm like, okay, now this wasn't happening before you got to the environment. Now it's happening. We removed her from that environment. Stop. Now she's doing cartwheels in the morning, eating everything, jumping up and down, jumping from one couch to the next. And so it's very possible to happen even with young kids. And I think the important piece is like you did, and you did a great job noticing the shift. You know your child, right? You know their behaviors. And so once you start to notice like a change in their behaviors, it's important to do what you did. Let me take you to the doctor because this won't happen before this. So anytime you notice a shift, just begin to kind of assess the situation and kind of think about what change happened, what's happening in the environment, right? Did a loved one pass? Did they switch from one place to the next? But I think the real key in noticing with the younger people is the change in action.
Mhm. That's good.
Yeah, that
Man.
is really good. And I think it's also important, like you said, to kind of pay attention to those things, because a lot of times I can speak for myself. I haven't experienced that, but as a mother, when you got life and stuff going on, trying to hurry up, like I'm trying to get you on the bus, we overlook certain things, when it's not to like, okay, wait a minute, this is day 5 and we're doing this again, and it starts to make you think. But I think a lot of times we really have to really pay attention sometimes to the simple things, and some things that we may view as acting out could be something that's really outside of their control, or it's their way of telling you that something is going on. Because us as adults do the same thing. When we get ready to go somewhere we're not comfortable, stomach start to hurt, you start to sweat, we get nervous, and that's anxiety that's kicking in. And I think we fail to realize that these babies are human too. And just because they can't really articulate exactly what it is and or why they're doing it, or pinpoint what's wrong. So just keeping that in mind sometimes. But like I said, I think you did an amazing. You both did an amazing job with keeping that running tab of what's going on and how often it happens and when it happens. And I mean, I think that could be used for adults as well.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And since you said that, I have to say this even about myself. So I didn't know what, so I'm gonna give an example. Um, Back in not November of last year, but the year before, I went to the doctor. And I was like, I'm having chest pains. Can you give me an EKG? Something is going on here. Like, I don't know what's wrong with my heart.
Mhm.
And so my doctor, because I've been going to her for years, she said, Ayana, you know what time it is? It's this time of the year. And she said, and I was thinking like, but I'm fine. I'm not stressed. I don't feel anything going on with me. And she said, I just want you to know that it is that time of the year and I'm going to give you this EKG, but I don't think anything is wrong with you. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you're stressing. You may not realize that you are,
Mhm.
but you're stressing. And so they do this EKG, absolutely nothing wrong. And at that moment, I thought, wow. So I had to
Mhm.
like take a pause and understand that in November, I'm sad. I'm really
Mhm.
sad,
Mhm.
and I had to just look at that thing for what it was. So this
Mhm.
November, when it came around again and my chest started feeling funny, I needed a
Mhm.
relaxer.
Mhm.
So I just had to calm down and just understand where I was. And so I think that it is important for us, just as we look at our kids and pay attention to our kids, that we pay attention to ourselves. Because I never would have thought, in November, this is when my kids transition. So this is why I'm going or having these feelings subconsciously. But I'm thinking, nothing's wrong. I'm okay. I'm not crying. So I'm really okay. But somewhere deep down, the hurt
Mhm.
is still very
Mhm.
great.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's like I guess this is why I'm not considered a professional because when she was sharing that with me, all I could say was, "There ain't nothing. You every time you think about me, something go on in your heart, you know." But I was wrong. I was wrong that time, you know. So anyway,
So
yeah,
sad.
Love it.
But I think that it is key to be in tune with
With
yourself as
yourself.
well.
Mhm.
So you would know
absolutely.
like what triggers are there, what's going on, what's happening, um, within yourself to
Right.
understand, and to know whether you need help.
Mhm.
And, a lot of people, I think, don't understand that there are a lot of people that seek therapy. And so if they looked at half of the celebrities that everybody runs after, they go to therapists. And when I was in
Mhm.
class, last week, my teacher was saying, oh, every therapist needs a therapist. And I
I got
thought
one.
that to be interesting. And that's
I
what
got
she
one.
said. She said she had a stressful day at work and she had to call her therapist on the
Mhm.
telephone. I thought, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
I
interesting.
got one. I got
Oh
I got
yeah.
my therapist.
Me too.
That's
Talk
smart.
that lady to death.
Okay.
I bet she's sick of
Because it's
me.
so easy. Yeah, because we take on other people's stuff and we're still human. Right. We have
Right.
families and lives outside of our profession with things that happen. So I need to unpack my stuff with somebody else. And even
Absolutely.
though she might tell me what I already know, it just sounds better coming from somebody else.
Yep.
Hmm.
It's true.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
And the
true.
fact that we can't take our own advice sometimes. So
We
that's
can't.
true. I
We
I can speak
cannot.
for me. I can't take my own advice. So
I
yeah,
can't.
she
I
pretty much
cannot.
read me my rights the first day I had my session. I was like, oh, I don't know.
Hmm.
No, she don't know what she's talking about. And then she was like,
Hmm.
Brittany, before you start, you're the client, not the therapist. I'm the therapist. And I was like, hmm,
Hmm.
okay. But it's been
Right.
amazing since then.
Yes. It's life.
Wow.
It's definitely life changing. And
Yes.
like Brittany
Yes.
said, like my therapist, when I said set me all the way down, I was like, oh. And when I said she when read me, I was like, I mean, I don't do none of that.
None of it. That's not
That
me.
ain't
That is not
that ain't
me.
me. I come to
She
her
don't know
then, and
me.
she was like, you the problem. Mm-mm, it's them.
Right.
It's not me.
So when I look at the stigma that surrounds mental health, what do you think the church's role, like the culture of the church, and we know Jesus to be a healer. We know Jesus to be the great and mighty one. Um, do you think that that is a reason that part of the reason that the stigma may be there, um,
Mhm.
because of that, because of
Mhm.
the church and how it's perceived that Jesus is our healer, like we don't go necessarily, and everybody doesn't preach that. Because I have to say, when we came to Zion, broken, literally, just when I say
Mhm.
broken, I believe I cried every single Sunday.
Mhm.
And it was like the skin, it was just as if God had to really just like heal me all over again, because I had
Mhm.
just gone through
Mhm.
trauma and stress. So
Mhm.
when I got there, it was just, and I remember, as Pastor Jackson got to know us, he offered us to go to a counselor. Like
Mhm.
he offered that service, for us. Um, we didn't do it, but it was there
Mhm. It's
for us.
there.
And so, and maybe we should have. Maybe we should have, but what do you think about that?
I think I think it should be talked about a lot more. Um, I really do, because it's kind of pushed up under the rug. And, I have so many clients that would say, like, I can't tell my grandma I'm coming here, or I can't tell my mom I'm coming here. I just tell them I come for something else, because I don't want them to. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that. I just get so sick of people saying, go to the altar and pray it off. And I hear it so many people say that same phrase to me all the time. Go to the altar, get some oil and pray it off. And and to some people that are really going through some things, that can really shy them away from going to church, or to that particular church, or sharing that they go there. But what I can say is that my leaders are amazing about promoting mental health and self-care and all of that. And I understand that every church doesn't do that, like you stated.
Mhm.
But I definitely think it should be talked about more, just as well as we do October Pink for breast cancer. I think green should be worn in May for mental health awareness. And it's like we wear red for American Heart. I just think it should be promoted more, letting people know this is a safe space to deal with mental health. Yeah, we're gonna pray for you. Yeah, we're gonna do this, but there are other resources out here that can help you in addition to this. And like my pastor just stated, God and therapy. I agree. It's much
Yes,
needed.
yes,
It's much needed.
Mhm.
yes.
I agree. I agree. I think, again, like you said, a lot of some ministries may push, God, He's gonna heal you. Keep praying, keep trusting, fast. Turn your plate over, don't eat. But I think the church is a huge forefront for that, right? You go Sunday after Sunday, you have Bible study, choir practice, everything else. And so some people spend just as equal amount of time in the church as they do at home and at their job. So I feel like the same way when voting time come and we out here telling people who to vote for and giving them reasons why to vote, it's the same way that we should be pushing mental health and other organizations and ministries, give them reasons why they should go. And I never forget one of my mentors said, and she's actually a pastor and a counselor, and she said to me, we always say the term faith without works is dead, right? And so you can trust God because that's what your faith is, but you got to do the work, which is counseling, right? And so you just can't sit there and pray after pray and fast after fast, and He's provided these resources for us, right? So you can that doesn't mean that you don't trust God because you're seeking counseling the same way you go to the doctor, right? You go get examined to make sure, like you did your EKG. I just want to make sure that I'm good. Once you get
Right.
those results back, everything is good. Then now you can really get down to the root of what the problem is. So that's the way I look at it when it comes to the church, right? You have your faith, you have where your faith lies, but at the same time, let's get down to the root of the problem.
I
Well said.
wonder. Yeah, and I think that is so good. When you talk about getting down to the root of the problem, I wonder, are some people scared to go to counseling to deal with those roots? Because sometimes when you had an issue as a child, if you've been molested or
Mhm.
abused, or sometimes you have hidden that stuff so deep that you don't want to
You don't know.
dig it back up because you buried it so deep. Um, but I think to be whole and to be 100%, you have to deal with it. I have heard many pastors say that what you don't deal with will deal with you eventually.
Mhm.
And it is
Mhm.
so true. And I think that that's a problem as well, that people don't want to really deal with their issues sometimes. And so they just go on. And I think
Mhm.
the older generations, like our parents' ages, they went through a lot, but they suffered in silence. And
Mhm.
at this point, we don't have to suffer in silence. Um, there is help out there, just as Luke was a physician during Bible days when Jesus himself was here. You know, um, I just think that we need help and we should get it. If we need help, we should
Mhm.
definitely seek help.
Yeah.
And I think
Mhm.
that a lot of times people don't understand how to deal with things, so they don't deal with it. You just kind of let it go. Whether it be your child, you see something when they're smaller, you don't necessarily deal with it, and then it grows into something else. And
Mhm.
before you know it, you have a bigger problem. If you had just dealt with it when it was something smaller, it may not
Mhm.
have gotten that out of hand or gotten to that place. But and that's just like with grief. I think that what has helped us so much is the fact that we are able to talk about it, and we're
Mhm.
able to deal with it on that level, because we're able to talk about it, and we provide a safe space for people to be able to talk and to share their feelings. And I think that that's how we really, with God, of course, but that's how we've really been able to make it. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
so
I think
I think that's.
and can I say one thing?
Go ahead,
Okay.
Mhm.
please.
Yeah, I think I run a group and it's titled Seeking Safety, and it's designed for women with trauma and substance use. And a lot of times, as addiction specialists, I deal with a lot of clinicians that have dealt with substance use. A lot of times people self-medicate from trauma. Um, Self-medicate, say this stuff doesn't necessarily have to be a drug. It could be anything that we kind of abuse or maybe addicted to. And I think I went out for a moment. Here we go. Okay.
Mhm.
And people cope with things, self-medicate. Sometimes people drink, try to drink their problems away, smoke their problems away, and any other substance, sex, gambling, any type of addiction is how sometimes people cope because it numbs the pain. It makes me forget about it. I've been doing this for years and this is how I dealt with it. But now it comes to a point where, like you stated, if you don't deal with it, it will deal with you, and it comes to surface, and it's like everything that you tried is no longer numbing the pain anymore. So for
Mhm.
trauma, sometimes there is cases where there are cases where you can experience something as a child, and you get through life, and then maybe like 20 years from now it's just refreshed, it's back here. That could be something that really needs to be dealt with. So I definitely recommend therapy and counseling if you've ever had any traumatic experience happen, and you felt like you were doing good and things are going okay, and then all of a sudden it just keeps coming as if it just happened. And that's similar, the same thing is not similar, but similar characteristics to the grief experiences as well. So
Mhm.
trauma is real.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes. I think even, and again, I just use myself as an example. I may not have done the drugs or, drinking or anything like that, but I felt like shopping was my way to deal with it and to cope. And I felt like I did it in excess, meaning like all the time, like literally every time the weekend came, I was in a store. And I think that is so true. I think
Mhm.
that is true.
Mhm.
Yep. She was even in the store on weekdays too.
Hush.
Tell it, June. Tell it.
I'm trying to do better. I'm still working through that. I'm trying to do a little bit better.
Help.
I might need to come lay on one of y'all's couches.
Now we gonna go to the store. I'm gonna take you to the store. I'm gonna take you to the store. We can talk in the store.
Right, right. I love it.
So, so something that I know that we all can agree on is the fact that COVID has shifted and altered the lives of so many people. And by listening to like the news on or watching the news on TV or listening to certain talk shows on the radio, they often talk about how it has affected so many people mentally because now people are having to stay home for various reasons. So this is a twofold question. Have you guys seen an increase of mental health patients during the pandemic? And how are you all operating in the pandemic?
So for me, I have a tremendous when COVID first hit. Every client that I got pandemic related, literally every client was pandemic related, because of the shift, like you said, the lockdown. You can't go anywhere, can't do anything. Everybody doesn't handle stress the same. So where we may be like, okay, they ain't got no toilet tissue, old days, we're gonna make it work. People who are not used to that type of lifestyle, it was just outdone for them. So for me, within my places of employment, for my full-time job, I still had to go into work every single day, still going in every day. It was not an option for me to work from home. With my part-time job, I was going into the office. Then when the pandemic hit, I started to work at home. So now I do my therapy sessions from home. But definitely the pandemic, tremendous. I mean, literally every client I got, their sessions was related to the pandemic.
Wow. And you?
Okay, sorry. I think my Wi-Fi is tripping a little bit. Okay, I definitely have seen an increase. I would say anxiety and depression has been the top two. Simply because a lot of people, I would say COVID being on lockdown has kind of forced a lot of people to deal with their own selves. Just like you stated, how you cope at your time with shopping. Well, you couldn't really go out and shop as much. You know, things were closed. You were forced to be in the house, and it's different from wanting to be in the house to have to be in the house. Um, so for some people that were outgoing and really needed that interaction and really needed to be amongst people, and this was very hard for them. And there's still some people that may be battling with the anxiety, which is just the fear of the unknown. That's really a lot to do with anxiety. Just worry, the fear of what if I catch COVID, the fear if what if I can't clean, the fear of what if I don't have enough paper towels, toilet tissue, the fear of what if somebody I know gets affected. The fear of when will we get, what if things never go back to normal? So it was definitely a lot of anxiety there. And now, even though the pandemic is wherever we are with things, it's the fear of I got this vaccine, and what if this causes me to do this, or what if I still get it, or what if this was all made up? So it's like now it's like so many things are turning inside our mind, which raises the anxiety. People who thought that they were together, no problems, had it together, eventually found themselves in a mirror looking at themselves and was just like, I am losing my mind right now because I can't go to work. I'm home. I have to deal with myself. I have to deal with my family. And a lot of times, some people, I don't want to say they avoid their family, but we avoid issues sometimes by keeping busy. We didn't have games to go to. We didn't have events to attend. We didn't even have the church to go to kind of get that way of escape sometimes that we felt like we needed at times. So it's like you really had to really deal with yourself at that moment. And it wasn't always the prettiest picture. So I definitely think it's been an increase. Our job, we work from home for a few months. And normally a lot of clients that we have that I may have in group or individually, they prefer to come into the office because a lot of times home is not a safe place for them. It could be domestic violence, it could be abuse of any sort. Home may not be the safest place for a lot of people. And then to tell someone that they have to stay there all day could bring about, maybe this is not where I need to be. And that could be like physically suicidal, homicidal, anything. So a lot of emotions came to surface during the pandemic. So
I agree.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Um, Shopping still didn't affect us because Amazon, FedEx, and
oh
UPS
yes.
You
They
know what
got
I'm
us
saying?
through. They got us through.
Joyce, I thought about putting up a no trespassing sign and tell them this means you.
I don't know. Listen, Ayana, I was laughing when you was talking about shopping, and you remember when Ross that sale dropped and both of us in line. I said, "Look at us out here, both of us in line." Like,
God.
So next time you see
we
her in
could.
Ross, you just look at her and say, "You okay?"
I'm gonna be right behind her with my
Right. I'm
baby.
with them. My store is TJ
What you
Maxx.
gonna
I'm gonna
get?
be on the other side.
Yeah, I ain't gonna
I'm
stop
there
her.
too. So
Listen, I just
really
spent so
quick,
much money in TJ Maxx. That was the therapy.
me
That's
too.
it. Ross.
Crazy.
Ross.
I literally was coming home yesterday from a doctor's appointment, knew I had to hurry up and get back to work, and I was telling myself, "You are not stopping. Go to work." But I went to work. I didn't stop. But quick question: How do you ask somebody how they're doing mentally? Like, what are the words that you could say without saying, "How are you doing mentally?"
Mhm.
And not sounding offensive, not to offend anybody.
Mm.
Ooh.
See, that's a little. Then you kind of got me
Go,
thinking
Joyce.
like at this because I'm always so deep. We so deep all the time, y'all. That's what we do. We ask them like,
Right.
"What's going on?" That's what we do.
Right.
You good?
So
Right.
yeah, like you do, like what's happening. But I will say this. I'll use for example, like even within my marriage, right? I do little assessments just to check in, like how you doing, how you feeling, and I will ask. I notice myself mentally, how you doing, right? Because you can ask somebody how they're doing, and they just say fine, right? But then when you hit that mentally piece, though, that causes them to think, like, hold on, well, you might be right, and then the conversation flows. But I think if it's like a like your interpersonal relationships and you know this person, I think you'll notice the shift or change. And ways to do it is maybe instead of me like Brittany, me and Brittany all the time text. I'm like, girl, let's meet up for lunch. Let's go out to breakfast. That's a way to, in a sense, to come around to checking in, but not directly saying, "Look, Brittany, now I ain't heard from you in a week. What's going on with you?" So I think the way you kind of incorporate it,
What's
but
the
I do
problem?
feel, yeah, yeah. But I do really feel like as a professional, I think that's what we do. So
Right.
sometimes I just come out. I'm just being honest. I just come out and be like, "Listen, what's going on in your head? What's happening?" That's what we do.
Because that's true. Because when they come to us, they know what you're here for. So, I'd be
Hmm.
like, well, how's you doing? How you doing? How's your week? And then I'd be like, okay, now really, how you really
Yeah.
doing? Last week
Right.
we da 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 da. So it kind of flows. But to a friend, well, they know what I do. So it's like sometimes I ain't even gotta ask. I can get the text message, girl, dot dot dot. Okay, what's up? What's going on?
Yeah.
But to someone that you really don't want to offend, it's kind of like you just kind of leave that little open door invitation, and you don't go too deep. Because you don't want to feel like okay, how people may analyze and say, did I look like I had something going on with me today? So maybe I need, you don't want to give off that notion as
Right.
well. So it's kind of just like, hey, I was thinking, a little comment. I was thinking about you. Everything okay? And then throwing in some subtle.
Right.
You look good today at church. It was good to see you. Everything okay? How's your mom? You know how we do the whole little spiel. Yeah,
Right.
everybody's fine. It's okay. Well, I was thinking about you. If you need me, just call me. And after a while, to someone that really needs to talk to someone, they're gonna remember. Okay,
Right.
they did say
Right.
that. Okay, so and maybe a few days later, and they'd be like, okay, I just need to talk to you. You got a minute, and that's usually how it comes out. So.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's good. So my final question would be, how do you know, like, what are some signs that someone may be in crisis? And it may not be obvious. Um, I had a situation where somebody very close to me, was kind of breaking down, and I saw it earlier a little bit. Like, I saw the change. But again, when you don't deal with it at the moment, it just grows into something bigger. Or if I say, well, I see this, and it's no, no, nothing's wrong. And then before you know it, it has just exploded into something greater. What are some signs that you can look for to say help is needed?
I would say one thing that I've learned as a mobile crisis clinician is that what we think could be a crisis may not be a crisis to them, and what we don't think is a crisis could be a crisis to them. So, and really understanding, like, okay, they're in a crisis. This is a situation, or this is something that's ongoing right now, and they're in dire need. You know, to someone, a crisis could be, oh my God, I'm feeling sick, and last time I got sick, da 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 happened. You know, to somebody else, it could be suicidal. So, kind of taking ourselves outside of what we feel like is a crisis compared to what they feel like is an actual crisis. Crisis can vary. They could be hallucinations, hearing voices, seeing things, tactile hallucinations, which is feeling like you got bugs crawling on you, and suicidal thoughts. Like, I just keep having thoughts of wanting to die. I don't want to do it. I don't know why I'm thinking it, but this is a crisis because I don't want to die. I don't want to harm myself, but I don't know if I can trust myself. A crisis could be those a panic attack like you had, where you just felt like you felt like you were having a heart attack. To you, that was a crisis. To your husband, he was like, "You just in love." So
Hold
it
on, that's a
was
panic attack? Is that what you
that.
define
I don't want to
They can be.
diagnose you, but I'm going to say that
That's
is
it. That's
more than
it.
likely a panic attack.
that as?
Hmm.
Huh. But
Wow.
but I know it was you, Mr. Lewis. I know it was mainly you. But yeah, that could be a panic attack. A panic attack could be, it varies for different people. Everybody may not experience the same thing. Sweaty palms, racing heartbeats, feeling like an elephant is sitting on your chest. That's the best example that I can give. Like, I just can't breathe. The walls are caving in on me. I feel like I need fresh air. I feel like I need to run and get out. I can't breathe. Some people say when you're having a panic attack, breathe in a bag, do that type thing. But how is it possible to do that if I already feel like I can't breathe?
Right.
So those are just some running examples. But that could be a crisis, and you could feel like I'm about to die. I'm losing my breath. I got COVID. I have a heart attack, and you get to the emergency room, and they just looking at you like, ma'am, you're having anxiety, you're having a panic attack, but to you that was a crisis, and someone just belittled your crisis. So that makes you feel some type of way too. So it's kind of hard to determine when someone needs to seek help. And what I can say is that if you feel like this person is a danger to themselves or to someone else, or, normally on some type of medication, and they're not taking it, like a behavioral health medication, um, which varies as well, and they're normally not taking or acting out. They may be like throwing things or doing anything that could be a danger to them or themselves, and you feel like it's a crisis and you can't control it. You can always go to the magistrate office in your county and petition an involuntary commitment. And what that is that the police officer will come out, a sheriff officer will come out to the home. In most cases, they're not handcuffed unless they become aggressive or violent, and they'll transport them to the hospital themselves, because there are a lot of times when crises occur and you may not be aware of it, but you just know, I'm scared to go in there because he said if I go in there, he's going to kill me, he or she, or they got a knife in there and I can't get them to come out. Some things are outside of our control. So I definitely want to make sure I announce this before we leave, that if this happens to you or someone that you love and you are there to witness it, you can go to the magistrate office and let them know, look, this is what's going on. I need somebody to come out to this house to help me because I don't know. So these are the worst case scenarios. But if in doubt, you can always go to the emergency room yourself, or you can always contact mobile crisis, and they can assess and give more information as to what, if it's a crisis or if it's not.
I love that.
Yeah.
I
And
love it.
like Brittany said, I mean, she hit all the points. You never really know. You never really know when it comes to a crisis. What we consider a crisis. What we consider a crisis. Um, may not be a crisis for someone else. I'm sorry, y'all, my nose ring bothering me. I'm sorry. And vice versa. But like Brittany mentioned, the IDC piece, and if you feel like it's just too out of hand, call 911. Worst case scenario, if you feel like I ain't got time to get in my car and drive nowhere, call 911, explain the situation to them, and they can come out as well.
Right.
That's really good. That's good information. Um, so as we close out, I want to thank you all for joining us on today. How can people get in contact with you all if they like? Do you all do this like in the private sector where they can, or is it directly through your jobs?
So for me, I think the challenge is because of the area that we live in. Um, and some personal relationships, I try not to do it with people that I know personally, or that I know I'm gonna have to run to often if I could see them at the store every time I go to the store or at church. But one service that I do offer, and I'll drop my email, is connecting people to resources. I can't
Oh,
be I can't be the source, but I can help you find a resource.
that's good.
So that's something that I do. And as far as seeing me in the business sector, you don't want to come to where I work full time. You don't want to come
Gotcha.
there. So maybe go see Brittany first.
Yes.
you
Right,
don't want to.
right. Let's
You don't
skip that
see Brit.
inpatient process. Yeah,
Yeah, you can see Brittany
yeah.
because I
So I
do
do community
inpatient
mental
work.
health. So
Gotcha.
I'm inpatient. So my folks, they don't go home once they see their therapist or counselor or whatever. You stand there for nights, months, years, even at most. So you don't want to come see me. So go see Brittany.
right,
Gotcha.
right. Right. Well, the way it works is anyone is more than welcome to come to Digmart Recovery. Like I stated, it's more clinicians there than just me. And how it works is you come in for the assessment. I kind of mentioned it before, and you see a therapist. You may see me, you may not see me, and then from based off of what is assessed, then they kind of match you up with the therapist. Sometimes you may say, I had people to come in and was like, no, I want that girl right there, or I'm looking for Brittany, and it could be the fact that whatever you're coming in for, it could be someone else. I'm sorry, excuse me. It could be someone else that may be a better fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do have my own caseload, and like Joyce said, that dual relationship thing is kind of like you don't want to really build that relationship. Not that we don't want to, but it could be a matter of, it has never happened to me, but I have heard in school of it could be a fact of, I only tell Brittany that, and then the whole church know, and we go to church together, and I'm looking like, well, it won't be. You had to tell somebody else. So we really kind of try to shy away from those dual relationships a lot.
Yes,
That's good.
absolutely.
That makes sense.
Because I worked too hard to get my license and paid too much money to
Still gotta
be
Right.
pay.
getting a notification from the board that I'm under investigation for anybody. So I tell you right now, I can connect you to whomever and what you tell them, but I ain't finna lose all my hard work because you done told 3 people and you mad now you pinpointed to me.
You think it is me?
That's
Ain't gonna
smart.
happen.
Yeah.
That's
Ain't gonna
smart.
happen. Ain't gonna happen.
So out. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it has really been um educational talking to you two. It's been really great. And as a matter of fact, just by talking to y'all, I forgot the day was Friday. I thought I had to go to work tomorrow.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Some things you don't want to forget. I don't want to forget that. It didn't take me long to remember it. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, it was really, really great hearing the expertise and just hearing about that. It's been
We
really
appreciate you all,
yeah,
and
No
hopefully,
problem.
this will help someone feel a little bit more comfortable with reaching out to a
yeah,
therapist, going and sit on somebody's couch. Hopefully, this will help them to feel, because there are so many people that are seeking this help and are
yeah.
getting the help that they need.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Before we leave, we want to let you all shout out any other um, side businesses or anything that you all may do.
okay, I'll go first. Ah. So, me and my husband have a t-shirt company. We do customized t-shirts. I actually have a customized shirt on today. It's okay not to be okay. I say this so much at work because it's okay not to be okay. So I love that saying. And we make customized t-shirts. We
Yes,
have
you do.
fly states only. Oh, and I made that. Okay, put the camera on it, girl. Yes. So customized for any occasion. We also have our own clothing line, Hustle and Grind, and that could be anyone that has a hustle and willing to grind. A lot of people associated with street related things, but that could be applied to anything. I believe we all got a hustle and grind in us
Oh yeah,
somehow, some way. Um,
Mhm.
and Fly Saints only. And we also have just other brands, FSO, and so many different things. But definitely can contact us at any time by social media.
Mhm.
Thanks
Wonderful.
to my little
So
commercial.
how can they get in contact with you?
They can contact my page, Brittany Jennings, if it's easier here, or we can do Stefan Jennings or Stefan Sherrod Jennings. Those are the best ways. If you're on Instagram, FSOTs, we have an FSOTs business page as well. So
Love
3
it.
pages
Love
is fine.
And if you VIP like me, send a text.
Oh gosh. Please
Hey, so
don't.
can you
Not
do a
last minute
shirt?
text, please.
So can you do a shirt if someone had
Huh.
their own? Can you do a shirt if someone had their own logo? Like,
Yes, sir, we can.
okay, okay.
Yep.
They bad. They
Joyce, do you
bad.
want to shout anything out tonight?
I don't have nothing to say tonight.
Nothing to say tonight.
Nothing
Well,
tonight.
we
Something's
want
gonna be
you to
brewing.
join.
We're believing it.
Yeah, yeah, stay tuned. Stay
All
tuned.
right.
Stay tuned.
We want you all to go. If you all have not liked our Couch Conversations page, we want you to join us on our Couch Conversations page. And we have a YouTube page too. I don't think we have put that out there yet either, but you can go and like our YouTube page as well. And we are super excited. One, I want to shout out Kanetta Terry. It's
Girl,
the glorifying
I gotta try
skincare.
it.
Oh, it
girl,
is the best. It is
don't go
the
without
best.
it.
Yes.
Don't
And
go
so I want
without
to
it.
shout her out tonight. And her name is Conetta Terry. Again, it's Glorifying Skincare. Please go to her page, request some. This is the best. Me and Gabe use it every single day. It is the best. I need some more. So we want to shout her out as well. And next week we are doing, because May, Mother's Day, all of that, we're doing women in ministry as well. So next Thursday, our couch conversations will be women in ministry. And we have some dynamic women preachers that I'm super excited to feature on next week. So please join us on next week with Couch Conversations. And that is it. Please get the help that you need.
Yes.
Get the help that you need.
Yep.
Get it.
All right. Thank you guys so much for
Yes.
joining
Thank
us.
you
No
so much.
problem. Bye.
Thank you. Anytime.
Bye.